nobody's calling out your name. I haven't heard nobody calls your name now.
Yeah. It's a lot to it. You know, you start catching patterns. I've been in the professional game for it's about to be almost 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so with that, like you kind of catch a little bit of everything. You catch on how certain things work. And I just see patterns, man. Like me and after this fight with Jermaine Ortiz, me and Matias could have fought, and I thought Eddie Hearn wanted that fight. So we could have still laced up the gloves in June. I mean, we're not too far. We're only like a couple weeks different. And everybody knows a couple weeks is not too far away from actually making a good mega unification fight. So, you know, and but I know what it is at that point. I take it as a compliment. I've accomplished a lot in just this young of an age. So you know, I think it goes to just they need the name to keep them out there, kind of keeps them on the swivel, and then they do what they can and what their original plan was to move these fighters. It's just all marketing. They call it business. They call it boxing business.
Or they call it marinating, building, or
it's not fan friendly business though. You know, and I think that you need to really catch an eye on, because if we keep this route, they feel like they're winning, but we end up losing a bit every time. You know, we're seeing a big drastic change. You know, I'm even watching more UFC than I am in the boxing. So
as well, I feel what you're trying to say with the UFC as well, because they always fight the best as well. They never really frustrate their fan base like boxing does.
Yeah.
Yo, but what you feel about the Excellency, this new card, this all stacked up, and there was people that thought that you was going to be in the card. What you feel about that card, and so you could clarify, were you supposed to be in this event or not?
To be honest, no strings came back to me on that end, so I can't really say that it was 100%. Could be other things too to it. I'm not gonna put out the conspiracies out like it's not questionable. So to be real, man, I'm just focused on what I got to stay on. I think I know what kind of somewhat of a situation I'm in. You know, so it's like, okay, you know what? I just gotta play the long game. You know,
play the game.
Very happy for all those guys that are on the card, and for them to actually do that, and to His Excellency, you know, Turkey. I think that's another great thing that he's doing. Is he's transforming it in a way that he wants to relive the sport, and by him doing the way he's doing things and crossing over, we're having actually I think this is the first time I see a few other hands of promoters combining into this, you know, which is pretty unique and awesome to see. And it also, on top of that, being in the US, in LA, you know, so he's taking his own risk and chance too. I think he sees where it's going to go with his idea. So I look forward to seeing how that is displayed on August, I believe, 2nd?
Is it August 2nd or August 8th? Oh, let me see when is it. It's
Charles, I see you, man. Yeah, I remember having ate the scoops.
Shout out to Tarzan the Cheese, man. Oh, shout out to everybody. Yo, I'll get y'all super chat in a minute. All right, guys. I see it. Thank you for the donation.
Man, like, who's a prospect? People got the eye. Mine is Abdullah Mason.
Yeah, man. Abdullah Mason is
I like him a lot.
But you were saying you already been saying that for a year or so, a couple years about Abdullah Mason. Yeah. You were the one that put it out on Twitter.
I can see it. You see talent when you see it, man. I ain't the only one that can see that, you know. So I believe that he definitely is, for sure, definitely hot number one in the prospects best in boxing right now.
I got Abdullah Mason. I like Ben Whitaker. I always been talking about Ben Whitaker from the UK.
I like him. I don't know why people bashing him too much. Let them saying you guys and just suck it up. This is everybody's different. If anything, he's just accommodating the greats that were in the past and the ones that are now in the present. Just own up to it.
When I spoke to him, he actually was crediting you, and he said, "You know, what I'm saying, like I'm one of those few guys in boxing that are showmen." And he mentioned you, and he mentioned Boots, and I think that you guys are needed in the sport of boxing. You know, what I'm saying, not everything is gonna be like all dried up, black and white. Right? We need some color in your art. And I think that y'all bring that type of element, y'all bring that type of entertainment and stuff, like, especially if somebody's if your opponent is willing to engage and not running around like the last opponent.
Yeah, man. but those guys are still climbing up the rope, and climbing up the ladder, and they still got to make themselves pretty much out there as top contender, soon to be world champion status. It's all in climbing the ropes. So they're gonna have this fun right now in this type of game where they could do a lot more of it. But as the competition rises, you'll see a little bit slow it down. Not gonna say that it's gonna stop completely, but it definitely changes the game. It does.
Yeah,